Well, we've scaled back from those record-breaking numbers we saw at the end of March, when nearly 7 million people applied for unemployment benefits within 1 week. These numbers, though, still would have been unthinkable just a few months ago, when the weekly average was around 300,000. In the last week, another 4,427,000 Americans applied for jobless benefits. That means 26.4 million in the space of just 5 weeks. That's more than the total number of jobs that has been added to the U.S. economy since the end of the financial crisis a decade ago. A reminder that many of those people have now found themselves without health insurance as well as no income. Now, there's been a backlog in getting some of these applications processed. The system has just been so overwhelmed that many of these claims may have actually been filed a few weeks ago, but they're only making their way through to the official data now. Some states are also starting to accept applications from people who wouldn't have been eligible before. The self-employed, people who work in the so-called gig economy, who were brought into the fold with that $2 trillion stimulus plan that was passed at the end of March. 11% of the country's workforce has now been formally approved for unemployment benefits. That figure is expected to double before the crisis is brought under control. It would bring it close to the all-time high of around 25% that we saw during the Great Depression a century ago. The wave of newly eligible claimants means that we're likely to see these weekly numbers continue at a fairly steady pace for some time, although most economists are hopeful that the overall trajectory will now start going downwards.
Huge concerns in the United States there. Meanwhile, here in France, there's growing scrutiny of the big corporations that are in line to receive state aid.
Yeah, the French finance minister, Bruno Le Maire, has confirmed that companies who are headquartered in or who have subsidiaries in tax havens will not be eligible for state aid. Denmark and Poland have already announced similar restrictions. Le Maire telling France Info that bailed out firms will also be banned from issuing dividends or share buybacks. Most of France's emergency support measures stipulate that the money really be used to prevent layoffs and keep afloat, not as an opportunity to get rich. Now, earlier, the possibility of Air France's CEO still receiving an annual bonus had sparked an outcry. The Dutch finance minister saying that should exclude the airline from receiving state aid. Air France KLM is on track to get around 10 billion euros from the French and Dutch governments combined. The chief executive, Ben Smith, now confirming that he will give up his annual bonus. He's also taken a pay cut for the year. The car maker Renault, meanwhile, says it's closing in on state-backed loans of around 5 billion euros. It said its first quarter revenue had tumbled by 19%. It's hoping to reopen factories in France in the coming days. Renault's top executives have also taken a temporary pay cut for the year. Governments around the world are really blowing through their budget rules to make hundreds of billions of euros available to their struggling businesses. But with that aid is certainly going to come a certain degree of scrutiny to make sure that those funds are really being channeled in the right direction.